The story begins with the image of a modern and bustling city, with an enigmatic thank you to everyone who is watching the presentation. In a meeting room, the young artist presents his work to a group of stern executives. The tension is palpable as he longs for approval. Lost in thought, he recalls his frustrated attempts to present his ideas. The fear of rejection haunts him, evoking frustrating memories. Smiling and agreeing faces hide criticism and reproaches. Bitter and disillusioned memories fuel his insecurities. With a professional smile, the executive thanks him for the presentation and promises to get back to him soon. The falseness of the speech is evident. Walking towards the exit, he wonders if the rejection letter will be kinder this time, and questions why it is so difficult to leave his mark on the world. As he passes through the reception doors, he encounters the word lobby, questioning the difficulty of leaving his mark on the world. The scene shifts to Iridia City Technological University, a refuge for his anxieties. In the stands, he watches a baseball game seeking distraction. His friends cheer him on enthusiastically, infecting him with their energy. As the player prepares to hit, his friends shout, "Hit a home run!" filling the environment with the hope of victory. The player focuses on the approaching ball, preparing to hit with all his strength. The artist observes every movement intently, seeking inspiration. The player hits the ball with a powerful swing. The sound of the impact echoes through the stadium, demonstrating the strength and intensity of the moment. The player runs the bases, sealing the Arcadian team's victory with a spectacular home run. He is Claude, a friend of the protagonist who approaches with a confident smile. They talk about the play, and his friend asks about the meeting. Smiling, the artist replies that the meeting was lukewarm, as always, without high expectations. The optimistic friend encourages Avon, affirming that he will soon get a contract to publish his comic stories. Claude's friends approach, excited about the team's victory. Avon's friend, with a gesture, invited the artist to join the group. While the group celebrates, Claude asks if he is going to the calculus class. Avon affirms he will, with a smile on his face. The scene shifts to an empty city street, bathed in the golden light of sunset. Avon walks pensively down the sidewalk. As he walks, he looks at photos of himself with his friends on his phone, reflecting on how life remains the same after all these years. The photos show his friend being flirted with by the girls. He still seeks to achieve his dream of making everyone smile with his stories. Looking at the photos, he reflects on his own journey and the challenges of being an artist. Suddenly, something on the phone catches Avon's attention, causing him to show a surprised expression. A beam of light cuts through the sky of a futuristic metropolis. A mysterious voice announces that the protagonist of the upcoming story has been found. Suddenly, the scene around Avon transforms into a digital space, with bright lines and fragments of data floating around him. Stunned, Avon observes the sudden change, not understanding what is happening. He expresses his confusion and disbelief out loud. An imposing figure with long, flowing hair and extravagant clothing materializes in the digital space, hovering above Avon. With an enigmatic smile, the figure invites Avon to come closer, informing him that the system requires his presence at the center of the stage. As the figure extends a hand to Avon, the artist watches everything with a mix of amazement and fear. The figure orders Avon to listen carefully to his words. At that moment, the artist's eyes shine with an intense green light. In a solemn tone, the figure announces that he will give Avon his first task, creating an atmosphere of suspense. A new scene opens, revealing the task: survive the hunter patrol and live to tell the tale. Back in the metropolis, Avon finds himself on the same street, still processing the surreal events. Dazed, he questions himself about what just happened. The sun sets over some apartments, but it seems like the situation isn't very good. Claude, visibly shaken, enters, being carried by his friend into the apartment, who also carried a baseball bat, ready for any threat. He states that they finally arrived, but his tone of voice betrays the fear and distress that consume him. Avon, impatient, demands to know what's going on. He describes the surreal attack he suffered. A man tried to kill him and exploded right before his eyes. Incredulous, his friend questions Avon's sanity, reminding him that he had already warned him about something in the past while locking the door. Claude, confused and stunned, claims he doesn't know what's happening. Outraged, Avon refuses to believe Claude's story, questioning the truthfulness of his words. Claude asks his friend to calm down. The tension in the room is palpable, and his fear is evident. While Claude tries to calm his friend, emphasizing that panic won't help, he asks him to put on some bandages while he prepares hot chocolate so they can think better. The protagonist's friend, while holding a mug, insists on his version of the story, swearing he is telling the truth about the attack. Confused, he admits knowing no more than his friend about the situation, increasing the mystery even more. Avon stares at Claude suspiciously, questioning if he's hiding something. The two friends drink their hot beverages. The weight of the situation hangs in the air. Breaking the silence, Avon asks about Achilles. Claude describes how everything happened too fast to be real. The confusion and fear are evident in his words. Amidst a digital scene, he recalls the moment he was transported to that place, describing the strange feeling of unreality that overwhelmed him. He found himself before the entity that chose him for the mission. A voice declares that he was selected by the system. The entity reveals to Claude that someone he loves is being hunted, and that it is his duty to protect them with his own life, which scares him even more. He confesses that he feared the person in danger was Avon, which motivated him to act quickly to ensure his safety. Relieved to have arrived in time, Claude expresses his gratitude for having managed to protect Avon from the threat. Still tense, he hopes the mysterious system will provide answers to the disturbing events of that night, revealing his apprehension. Avon reveals to Claude that he also received a notification from the system. Still recovering from his own traumas, he watches his friend intently, trying to understand what is happening. Convinced that the notification is related to the events, Avon asserts that those responsible for the confusion must have answers, revealing his determination to uncover the truth. Avon agrees with his friend but shows apprehension. He knows they will have to wait and act cautiously, not knowing who their true enemies are. As night falls over the city, the full moon shines brightly in the dark sky, creating an atmosphere of suspense. In his room, Avon reflects on the day's events, visibly anguished by the possibility that something bad could happen at any moment. Suddenly, a beam of light invades Avon's room, and a mysterious voice announces the protagonist's arrival, creating a sense of surprise. The imposing figure with long hair and extravagant clothes introduces himself as William Shakespeare, the Bard of the Globe Theatre. Shakespeare presents himself as the sponsor of the epic story that is about to unfold, a narrative full of hope and despair. Claude, still stunned, recognizes Shakespeare from the strange vision he had earlier, questioning if he is the same man. Shakespeare, offended, demands respect, reminding him of his great literary works. The playwright refuses to be reduced to a mere guy and emphasizes the importance of his legacy. Claude, confused, points out the apparent inconsistency of Shakespeare being alive, questioning if he shouldn't be dead. With a tired expression, Shakespeare admits to having fallen victim to his own immune system, which led to his death at the height of his glory. As Shakespeare indulges in the drama of his premature death, Avon watches the theatrical performance, finding it exaggerated. Interrupting Avon's train of thought, Shakespeare reveals he has been watching Avon all this time and claims to know exactly what he seeks. Answers. In an urgent tone, Avon confirms his need for answers, describing how an ordinary day turned into a nightmare. Shakespeare, understanding Avon's confusion, promises to be straightforward in his explanation, preparing him for the shocking truth. With a solemn air, Shakespeare announces that Avon has been selected to participate in the Arcadian City Royale system, a deadly game where he will fight for his life with a smile. Avon, incredulous, questions if he heard correctly about the deadly game proposed by Shakespeare. Shakespeare describes the Royale system, an epic battle where 500 participants, sponsored by legendary figures, fight to the death, leaving only one victor. The playwright emphasizes the unpredictability of the game, where the variety of systems makes it impossible to predict the winner. In shock, Avon refuses to accept that the game is real, with fatal and irreversible consequences. Scared, Avon despairs at the possibility of imminent death for himself and the other participants. Anguished, he laments not having fulfilled his dreams, fearing his life will end before he can achieve his goals. Shakespeare, with a serious expression, admits he cannot guarantee Avon's victory but vows to support him with the system. The playwright warns that inaction will result in certain death, encouraging Avon to fight for his survival. In a conspiratorial tone, Shakespeare reveals the crucial importance of Avon for the outcome of the story, without revealing details. Dramatically, he reveals that Claude's life is at stake. If Avon refuses to fight, his brother will meet his end in the Royale system. Desperate, Avon questions if his brother's life depends on his participation in the game, showing his fraternal love. Shakespeare confirms that without Avon's support, Claude will not survive the challenges of the game, intensifying the drama of the situation. Shakespeare implores Avon to fight, not just for his own life, but also for Claude's. Gripped by determination, Avon agrees to Shakespeare's proposal, deciding to fight for his brother. In a symbolic handshake, Shakespeare and Avon unite in the digital space, sealing Avon's fate in the Royale system. Shakespeare advises Avon to familiarize himself with the rules of the Royale system, emphasizing that the young man's life is at stake. Impatient with Shakespeare's elaborate language, Avon asks him to explain the rules directly. With a snap of his fingers, Shakespeare begins the explanation. He reveals that, as Avon already knows, the Royale system gathers 500 players connected to legendary figures from history. Whether recent historical figures or from distant past, Each player's goal is to complete the tasks defined by the system and defeat the others, becoming the last survivor. Shakespeare warns Avon that failing to complete the tasks will result in death. Intrigued, Avon raises his hand to ask a question. Shakespeare allows him to proceed. How did that guy manage to use all those powers? Avon questions, recalling the fight against the mysterious opponent. Shakespeare praises Avon's observation, and with a smile, begins to explain the next topic. Shakespeare explains that the systems are the manifestation of actions and legacies left by historical figures in real life. As an example, Shakespeare mentions himself, William Shakespeare, and his work First Folio as the materialization of his legacy in the history of literature. Shakespeare reveals that the opponent Avon faced previously was linked to the Whitechapel Reaper system, or, as he is more commonly known, Jack the Ripper, concludes Shakespeare, revealing the identity of the mysterious enemy. Shocked, Avon questions if Shakespeare is serious, incredulous that he escaped death at the hands of Jack the Ripper. Indignant, Shakespeare reacts to Avon's comment about Jack the Ripper, questioning how he dares to show more surprise with Jack than he himself does. Shakespeare explains that the contract between player and system allows the player to use part of the historical figure's legacy as power during the game. Shakespeare emphasizes that the better Avon performs in each round, the greater his powers will become. Impress me to grow stronger. Confused, Avon questions the absence of his powers during the confrontation with Jack the Ripper, feeling betrayed by Shakespeare. In a mocking tone, Shakespeare reminds Avon that he helped by creating an illusion that saved him. He asks if Avon hasn't learned to value the work of actors. Shakespeare then reveals the power that will be granted to Avon, the ability to manipulate the lines between fiction and reality. Shakespeare hands Avon an old book, his reward for completing the first task, and his weapon in the Royale system. Confused, Avon questions how he will fight in a deadly game using a book. With an enigmatic smile, Shakespeare replies that it's obvious. With his legacy, Avon will have mastery over fiction itself. Shakespeare explains that the book will allow Avon to materialize his desires, as long as his creativity allows it. Shakespeare encourages Avon to test his legacy and use his creativity by handing him a quill. Avon then writes. Shakespeare watches the reaction with a smile, excited about what Avon wrote as the first thing he imagined. Avon watches his creation materialize before him. Using the power of the book, Avon materializes Claude in his room, surprised by the result. Claude, or rather a ghostly representation of him, appears in front of Avon. In a mocking tone, he asks if his brother has hurt himself again. Avon observes Claude's materialization, surprised by the resemblance to his real personality. Shakespeare praises Avon for successfully materializing Claude on his first attempt. He admits to being impressed with Avon's compatibility with the system. Avon interrupts the farewell and asks who's the master behind the Royale system. Shakespeare refuses to answer, arguing he'd be a terrible storyteller if he revealed the ending in the first act. Shakespeare asks Avon to be patient, assuring that everything will be explained in time. Avon, resigned, asks how he can contact Shakespeare when needed. Shakespeare teasingly asks if Avon already misses him. Avon responds negatively. Shakespeare explains that since Avon passed the first round of tests, he can summon him for help. The contract has connected them in body, mind, and soul, and Shakespeare will be available whenever Avon needs. Shakespeare reaffirms they're in this journey together, and Avon's victory will also be his. He bids farewell, telling Avon to prepare for the next act, starting soon. While in the kitchen, Avon complains about how exhausting it was talking to Shakespeare. During breakfast, Avon asks who Claude's system is, who admits not knowing much about the history. Claude reveals his system is called Achilles. Avon questions if it's the Greek hero from the Battle of Troy. Claude confirms. Avon comments on Claude's luck in having an easy-to-summon system. Suddenly, Avon feels his watch vibrate, sensing the next round of the game will begin soon. The watch emits a sound. Claude notices his reaction and comments that the game seems to have started. A holographic message appears in front of Avon, announcing the great mission, capture the enemy base. Avon and Claude prepare for the Royale system. Avon encourages them to participate and survive, revealing the first objective, assemble a team. Curious, Claude questions the need to form a team. Avon explains that the great mission is to capture the enemy base, so they're the attacking team, but they need to find the location of the enemy base first. Shakespeare appears in the digital space, praising Avon's intelligence. Avon corrects him on how he should be addressed. Ignoring the correction, Shakespeare explains that the Royale system will test participants' intelligence and strength with complex tasks, focusing solely on victory. Shakespeare disappears, wishing them luck. Avon and Claude rush out of the apartment, determined. Achilles, Claude's system, appears on the street, wearing Greek armor and wielding his weapons, warning Claude that he forgot something. Achilles throws the shield towards Avon, who reflexively catches it. Claude asks about the shield. Aquilus explains that Claude's task is to become a leader, and the shield will bless him in battle. He warns Claude not to disrespect the gift, as it grants the power of the river Styx. Aquilus challenges Claude to impress him. Otherwise, he won't lend his powers and will leave him to face the enemies alone. Avon and Claude watch Achilles disappear. Avon concludes that if his book grants special powers, Achilles' shield must also have something special. If you want more parts of this manhwa, subscribe to the channel and leave a like.